We're back. Hopefully this time it's a bit quicker, a bit easier. But let's move to the next 7, 7 to 12. And here we go with the main race. And the main race has our ratings as See It Again as the top rated. A couple of things going for it. The P-stats is 25%, which is not all that great, but it's 3 to 1, so it's more or less in line. And on 25%, the opening betting has won the 2,200 meters Class A gravel before. And then 25% on exotic ranking, which is also our friend See It Again. And then the exact distance medium speed. There's no one with exact distance medium speed here in the race. 25% goes here to Intent on Pomp and Power. Bernard Fire Herb gets the Intent, of course, because he's got only Pomp and Power for the day. It's his only race, only horse. And then the other 25% here goes to Bat C, which is a very nice indicator for me, and also goes to See It Again. And then Bat C, the exact course and exact distance, the blue bat, what I want to call it, that actually goes to our old man, Do It Again. And you'll see it's our old man because that little icon there tells you the horse is older than the field average. You'll find all of that at the top here. If you just hover here over the legends, you'll see that means older than the field average. So older than the field average, very much in line with Do It Again and See It Again, because See It Again is much younger than the field average. And that's an interesting observation because, 16 August 2019, as you can see here, is almost a spring chicken, I want to say. And Do It Again is father of all. Do It Again, I think turning 8, if I wasn't mistaken previously when I checked. Let's just have a look. And I think it's also, it's also in Neil Johnson as the owner. And 2014, so next year, September, it'll be 10 years old. It's turning 9 soon. Any case, so essentially top rated here, See It Again. I actually quite like See It Again as a PA banker, at least, because it's also the purple, which is our own handicapping system horse. And the fact that Pierre Stradom, old man, joins up with young See It Again. And Pierre Stradom has 2 wins and a second as a record, so you can't really take him off for that. And so far in his last 3 runs, while Pierre Stradom has been riding, he's actually gone from 104 to 124 merit rating. Might actually be a little bit more by now. If he's won on the 124 last. So the fuss now stayed 124. So the fuss is very much with See It Again, and I can understand why. Quite simply because he has the credentials to win the big race. He's nicely drawn at 7. You can see that green is not bad. Pomp and Power is not well drawn at 18, but it is a 2,200 meters, so that maybe does something. Our second rated here is Mr. Janssen van Vuren, Porto Manzana. And you'll see Porto Manzana's very last prep run is a green bat on the bat 42 days. 2 lengths better than See It Again, or 2.5, if you want to call it that. On 7.02 when he won in the 1800 Turffontein. And that's pretty decent. He also gets 123, and he won his last 2. So if he can do the 2,200, he must be a runner. But it seems last year, the July, he faltered terribly when he tried the 2,000 with Raymond Danielson on board. Since then, Danielson was kicked off and Keegan DeMelo has always been on, and Keegan DeMelo has been doing very well with him. 3rd, 2nd, 1st. So Porto Manzana is decent in my eyes to have a go. I quite like the chances of Dave the King as well here. Sorry for those dogs barking again, because Dave the King has got some hidden red form here, and that is a 1,200 Turffontein, but he got that very nice 3.45 bat. So that's obviously not achieved over the 16 and the 2,000, where he got the 14 and the 12 bat. That's in lengths, by the way. Craig Zaki has been the regular driver. And then Safe Passage pops in here as 4th rated. Got a tongue tie on, and he's got Frenchie Christophe Soumillon on. And his bat C figure is really good, only 3/4 of a length worse than See It Again. So I do actually think that Safe Passage is potentially Mike de Kock's better chance in this race potentially than Dave the King, but they are third and fourth rated, so very little between the two. But purely on the fact that last year in the Durban July, he actually ran third. Then he went to a 1600, 2000, 1400, 1600, 1600. So he's been all over on the lower, and now he's coming back to the 2200 again. So he's one to consider. I also think that, Rain in Holland's prep run on the Woolhovington was actually pretty decent with Khumalo on board. Khumalo actually won on Rain in Holland his last two runs, but the thing that puts me off is the 17 draw, of course, and then also the not so good bats over the 2019 bat is not so great. It wasn't even in yielding, it was in good going. So if you compare that to the 2000 on the Durban News, 2000 year 9.57 against the also in good going 2000 Gravel, also Gravel, and that was on the same day in two different races where Rain in Holland did a 62.27 with 60 k's on the back, and See It Again did a 61.61 with 60 k's on the back, and they're both now carrying 3.5 kilos less. So for me, that's why the bat figure actually much rather goes in the favor of See It Again, and it's also a consistent bat figure because he also has bat C, which is our 8-month consistency weighted average bat. So in my mind, See It Again is a strong runner and a valid top rated and a valid favorite, but yeah, he has to be at his absolute best to pull it off because it is a big field and he is a young horse. I hope he doesn't get scared much by all the bigger horses, but those would be my See It Again, Porto Manzana, Dave the King and Safe Passage, the two Mike the Cock runners, would be my main runners. Then I have respect for Winchester Mansion because you'll see at the bottom here I actually did. You can look at the collateral forms later. I'll just switch that off because we don't have that much time and you guys don't want to listen to me for that long. But it's all on the site, so you've got access to the site in any case to look at. Son of Raj, really good debut behind Aggressivo. On that, can get out of the maidens pretty soon. That was back in 22. He did get out of the maidens. He's now in the July. So that's quite a big one. Winchester Mansion won extremely well against a strong field. Rockpool was back to 8 to 10 favourite. That's Justin Snaith's horse. He won unextended, returning from a rest, and on that can go much further. So let's have a look at that 10:06.23 run. And that 10:06.23 run, and I did say there on that can go much further. You guys can also make your own notes. So if I was saying on that, he just flashed at the end there, and he did do a very respectable 14.36 bat. So if you take that over the 1800, massive improvement from a 31 to a 14, where See It Again improved from a 12 to a 9. And Brett Crawford, in the kind of form that he's in, with can very much pull it off, I guess. He's got the best adjusted time figure as well. He's only carrying 53 kilos. So I would throw him into my pick 6 as well. If anything, maybe Son of Raj, as there's a lot of talk about Son of Raj. He doesn't pop out in the ratings that well. But there is a lot of talk about him as well. And yeah, Trip of Fortune's got some hidden form here on the 8s. If you look at that's the reason why they're in red is simply because they were in a distance not close to today's distance, because it was only a 1400 year. But he's going the 1600 after 2200 for the first time. But he's consistently doing really well. Otherwise, there's 5 wins in there. But in saying that, I normally try and see if his bat figure improves from the shorter to the longer distance to see if that's a indication that he's actually going to be able to improve more when he goes over even further. And I don't really get that idea because the 1600 14 bat, the 1400 8 bat, the 1600 13 bat, not much of a muchness between them. So yeah, and then Pakaya, Grant van Niekerk, birthday boy today. Happy birthday, Grant. Coming from a rest. He will have to improve on these bat figures, most definitely. But In saying that, he's also a horse that we don't know if he's going to do better over the 2,200. So it is a bit of a... We can only deal with the data that's presented to us, and if he hasn't run the 2,200, then we don't know. We're not the trainer, and we haven't seen him run that far, and the trainer might have a much better idea. So maybe watch for some support from him on the day. But just in short, so before I move on to the next, I would simply take a chance and say, see it again as a bank in my PA, because I do believe that he'll still be improving. And Mace Roberts has done really well with Pierre Strydom, as the data would suggest. He's 1, 2, and placed 1 on the 3 times he was on See It Again, and it makes for a nice little like swan song for Pierre Strydom to win with the young horse. And the stable is in form, 2 runners since the last win. Pierre is in form with a horse 66-33%. So a lot of data suggesting that See It Again, having done the distance, can actually see it again and not do it again. So let's move on to the 8th race. You'll see I've changed my little face now to to a better spot, I hope. But we're just still trying all of this out. So yeah, sorry if we're boring you. That's why I broke up the video into 2 pieces now. The 8th race. I hate it that we are so slow. Funny that Do It Again has the best bat CD, 30.44, which is 5 lengths better than Safe Passage. But that was a while ago, before, when he wasn't when he was still a little bit younger than he is today. Would also make for a very nice story, I would imagine. But yeah, a bit far-fetched, I think, to expect him to win such a race at such an age. But as I said, it would make for a really nice story. I'm just waiting for us to move on to the next race, which unfortunately takes too much time with this new app. And I apologize for that. I'll have to see what I can do to make things faster in that sense. It's not the actual site. When you're on the site, everything's much faster. It's this streaming or recording in the background that is making things so much slower. Anyway, in the 8th race, moving on, I think this is probably Soumillion's best chance to win on the day. Desert Miracle, potentially. I'll show you just now why when we get to the JTR detail. It's potentially also a sort of a chance for a banker here. And I'm going to go with Desert Miracle rather than Princess Kala. And then my third choice there is Feather Boa. And I think that's probably enough for you to get through the pick 6. But I hate to say, you shouldn't really be leaving any Tony Peter out at the moment, because Tony Peter and Dennis Schwartz together is absolutely potent. So Tipsy Tarragon there at 33-1 is potentially something that can actually just pop up and win, just simply because they are that good. Humdinger is the one with the best green bat. If I look at the 1607, it's the best one in green there. So that's actually the best green bat. But coming back to our question here, this is 1600 meters now. And first of all, when I look at the 1600 meters, the 2 1600s that I've got here for Desert Miracle was both won by Desert Miracle. Then Christophe Soumillon won on him the last 1600 he raced. You can see his 1600 form, and that's easy to show. I'll just, like, you see that turf I've got there. Now I can just show distance. Now distance only means simply I'm just looking at the data from just today's distance, and that'll change the graphs at the bottom and everything else as well. So it's easier to compare with one another. The other alternative is when you use valid bomb rolls. Valid bomb rolls meaning all the green ones. All the green bomb rolls meaning not these red ones that's outside of the distance category of today, but the ones that's within 201 meters if it's a shorter race, or 401 if it's a much longer race, or it's a middle distance, then 301 meters. But let's just look at the 1600s, comparing these apples with apples here. And both of them ran in Turffontein 16 on the last time. And the 2022 on the 23rd of April and 2023 on the 15th of April. Both of those were in good going. The Princess Color did a 61.4, Desert Miracle did a 60.58, so that's one little bit of a better, almost a second better for Desert Miracle. The next part that I looked at was Christophe Soumignon has been flown in to actually perform here, and that 21 and 14 on the bat figures and the minus 10 on the bomb roll best average merit rating adjusted lengths compared to previous races and previous fields with previous merit ratings averages, that's a minus 10 and a minus 9, and these are both minus 9s. And then the 14 shows that he's improving from a 21 to a 14, and this one from a 22 to a 19 is not improving as much as such. And then Desert Miracle also has the better draw, and Desert Miracle obviously has Christophe Soumignon, which has a 50% win and a 50% place strike rate. So that again means to me Desert Miracle is slightly better off for me than Princess Color. And then when I actually look at the 15th of April 2023, on that same race where Desert Miracle and Feather Boa ran against each other, 1.25 lengths behind Feather Boa, when Feather Boa was actually backed in from 6 into 2 to 1. That's a huge backing, but couldn't pull it off, and now is 1.5 kilos worse, or 57 to 59, and from a worse 14 draw, but does have the pacifiers on. So it was Alamites, it's now Alamites and pacifiers. So I got to respect Feather Boa as well, but in a sense, given that Gavin Lorena only ran second with Feather Boa the last time, and with the more weight and with the 14 draw, I'm going to stick with the IPS side to say Desert Miracle by Princess Color, by Feather Boa, and the biggest roughies for me is maybe Tipsy Tarragon and Humdinger. Humdinger purely because it's the best green bat of 16.07 here. If all these red bats doesn't perform, red bats being with outside of the distance category, as the best, this is the best in the last 42 days, which is the 0 for Color and the 6 for Desert Miracle. But obviously, let's take the distance out again, and you'll see how that was achieved. And those runs were actually achieved over much shorter 1200 Scottsville on this occasion, and 1200 Scottsville on the same day actually, when Princess Color did beat Desert Miracle by 3.2 lengths, but yeah, over the 1200. So yeah, I just got a feeling personally that Desert Miracle will be better over the 1600, and will hopefully from that draw be able to beat Princess Color. Humdinger was the 1 year, and it's got a joker with Mike the Cock on, meaning that it's owner and trainer or connections, and that's 16.07. Let's just move to the bottom here on the bat figures. You see this year Princess Color, Princess Color, Princess Color here, but now if we take that just to valid bomb rolls, then obviously that 1200 meters is not going to be in it anymore. So now the 16 and 1400s qualify, but not that 1200 runs. So if we look at it now, you'll see there's Desert Miracle, and Desert Miracle over the 1600 Turffontein, and then Desert Miracle over the 1400 Gravel when Craig Zaki was riding. That was Craig Zaki as well. That was Craig Zaki as well. That was Christophe Soumignon over the 1600. And here is a good record. Feather Boa over the 1600 bat, Turffontein, Gavin Lorena on board. So it has to be respected, because the 1600, if we do the same trick here and we say not just valid bomb rolls, but only this distance, then now this is going to change things at the bottom here even more, because now you're only looking at 1600 Desert Miracle here and Feather Boa here. So Desert Miracle on a 15 on the bat figure, Feather Boa on an 18, 3 lengths difference between the two, 14.7 versus 18.3, 4 lengths difference. So yeah, I'm going to stick with Desert Miracle by Princess Color, by Feather Boa, and then something like Humdinger maybe in a fourth position. Let me just see where is. Okay, it's not. I've got top 6 only, so let's take that out so we can bring in Humdinger. And Humdinger is this one here. So you can see Humdinger's form is going up and down here. Yeah, it's actually terrible. 35.17 is actually no good. That 16.07 was a valid bomb roll and not a distance. So let's see if that's a 1400 then. That Humdinger's got that very good run. It was a very improved run for Humdinger on his last run. Yeah, 10th of June when he ran that 16.07 over the 14 meters with JP van der Merwe on board, and JP retains the ride. If JP can do that on a 1600, then he is maybe another roughie to consider in the race. That's like Gary Player used to say, the more you practice, the luckier you get. So the more time you spend on the site, the more time you get, because it's just a tool for you to use. We're not saying we're perfect, and we're learning all the time with artificial intelligence and machine learning and everything else. We're not saying we're perfect at all, but we are improving from a solid base every time when we flush out all the results and we update all our rules with new weighted calculations based on real results in the past, and how these different indicators interact with each other and how much weight each indicator should be carrying depending on the actual venue and the distance and the class of race and all the rest of it. So really a lot into it. But yeah, horse racing is not a perfect science, and it's more sports betting that's allowing us to develop the horse racing side of it that is much more easier to predict. And we've done over 60,000 events last month, so that is a lot of horse racing that we are covering each month. Sorry for moving so slow between these, simply because of this OBS new app that's just actually terrible with my face not being the best face either. Interesting race 9, and yeah, here's the talk of the town at the moment. Tony Peter and Dennis Schwartz together is absolutely potent, very potent at the moment. And a couple of things here that stands out for me for Cold Fact that I really quite like is, first of all, the overall ranking. You'll see that is a percentage. Overall ranking is the actual point, and that's a percentage of how far. And the closest to that is actually the stablemate, which is currently a reserve, Miss Daisy. So if Miss Daisy gets scratched, then Cold Fact will look even better on the overall picture, because currently Miss Daisy is taking exotic ranking and form and intent and total points. But if Miss Daisy gets scratched, then a lot of that's going to move over to Cold Fact. I also very much like the fact that Cold Fact on the bat curve figure is it's about 6 legs better than the second best, which is Godsmacked on that 6.64. Yes, he hasn't run the exact course and exact distance. That's why that bat C is not an entry there. But in saying that, I'm not too worried about that, because this is Tony Peter, and he is doing extremely well at what he is doing at the moment. So that to me in itself says he should know what he's doing. Interesting runner for me is also this Sunblush here that pops up on the 42 and the 84 days as the best bat figures, this 2.08, which is very close to Cold Fact's 1.69. But yeah, you can see Cold Fact is actually gone. It's still the best bat C by 6.64 lengths. But just looking at Cold Fact here, he's gone worse. So this was a 1200 vol when he ran the 1.69, then the 1000 meters 4.89, then the 1160 4.06, and his last run here was not the best run when he did an 8.64. So I thought the dog wants to present here as well now, but so yeah, maybe his last run could be forgiven. And if that is the case, then he is still, for me, very much a runner in this race. He does have very decent credentials, as you can see: first, second, first, third, first, fourth, and with Dennis Schwartz, first, second, first, and fourth. So Dennis Schwartz could potentially be excused for that last run in the KZN province. Maybe he was acclimatizing still. Maybe he doesn't like KZN's humidity. That's another problem, but don't know. Yeah, he does have 25% on the bet, and it's a strong 24 races. So, of those 24 races, 25% of them, or 6 of those 24, was won by the best Bomb 168, which belongs to Colt Fact as well. On these bomb roll figures, all going into the negatives, which says the fictitious finishing line can be beaten, but that last time he obviously didn't beat it, and that's why he didn't run in this class as a winner. But those other times when he did win, it was all into the minuses. That's just our own calculation of saying that's. Let me just show you in the bottom here. This fictitious finishing line and who gets the closest on them. This is on the bat side, but on the bomb roll side, we have the same thing for this specific distance, class, venue, etc. Given all the data that we've accumulated over time. So I do like Colt Fact a lot. I haven't spoken much about anything else in this race. Quite frankly, for me and my notes, I said Colt Fact is a banker. I know that's people won't like that. Sean Terry, Thunderstruck must be considered as well, especially since 9.87 is not far away from the 8.6 on the very last runs. So yeah, he must be considered and respected as well. It's the only one where Sean Terry actually gets Christophe Soumenior to ride for him, which is all the others are actually Mike the Cock. But yeah, Christophe Soumenior did run a place with Thunderstruck, and hopefully he can just run a place so that Colt Fact can be the winner. That would be interesting. Another thing you have to consider is if Tempting Fate, which is currently also a reserve, gets in, which is currently third rated with these very good 4.1 bat figures, etc. If he gets in, he's a runner. But if he gets scratched, then that makes Colt Fact look even better. And then the second rated here, Sheldon, 14-1. Janssen van Vuren, one of only 3 runners with the Gavea. Easy second run after a rest. So you can see that little Maniki that's running with a 2. And that quite simply just means that he's got a red, unhappy face of second run after a rest. But in saying that, I've seen horses winning second run after a rest if they prepared well, and Janssen van Vuren certainly does prepare them well. He's fifth in the country for that. So that is a consideration. Hasn't done the 1200, but that shouldn't be a problem because he has run the 1000 Turffontein, which is a 9-meter uphill battle. So he shouldn't have too much problem to convert that into a 1200 at Gravel, in my humble opinion. He's very fast, speed rating of better than the course record. So he could be a nice little roughie to include, but I do like the chances of Colt Fact, and I hope I'm right. But yeah, Tony Peters in very good form. The two of them together wins so many races that you almost like before when you see the name, you can't not pick him at the moment. In any case, moving on. All these probability stats, the one that actually stood out the most that I didn't actually tell you about was Terry's pull. I think it was in the third rate what was Terry horse Future Pull that's running against Fight Song, Red Maple, and Arumugam. He actually has the highest probability percentage to win for the day of all the races. Interesting race, 10th race. I must admit, I don't quite like it that much because I get the feel that this race could be extremely shaky. And the reason being here for me is like I've got a horse that's 6.93 lengths best on Bat C. That's Good Traveller from Michael Roberts at 40-1. Now, if I look at this one in a little bit more detail, he's only popping up 8th overall. But in saying that, at 40-1, I can't not consider him, given that he's got the best bat curve by 6 lengths consistency, and the best on the 168. Although it's in red, it's not within today's distance. But yeah, we've seen that trick happening before when it comes over the distance and it performs the same. So first of all, the valid bum roll that he has here, the 1400, was a 16.56. If I take that valid bum rolls off and I show all the race values, I'll just show you what I mean by good traveler, which is obviously a huge roughie, but at that kind of price, I always get worried when I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the 22 indicators belonging to a 40-1 horse. Then I see that's a race of problems. Then I see a red trainer here, Golf Puller's only horse for the day. Serena Moodley gets bored with the blinker, with the flames flashing. The reason why there's red flames and orange flames is simply the more red, the more times it flashes, and the better the jockey trainer combination. And if it's an orange, it's still good, but it's not as good as the red flashing one. But you can see the Forever Mine didn't do so well over the 1600 where he faltered. But that was when JP Fourie was on, and he got backed in from 33 to 16 from a 13 draw, which in itself says that there was some support from that draw for him. But then he failed, of course. And it could be that he didn't like the 1600, or it could be that JP got it wrong, and the 13 draw was not easy to overcome. And that's why Richard Fourie rode him here and won, and Richard Fourie had the prep run on him in the beginning of the month here and ran third when he was backed in from 6 into 4 again. So Forever Mine will remain my top choice, even though he's one of the older horses in the race. That's what that sign is. And second is another older horse in the race with Captain Fontaine. But showing you what I meant earlier by this little 3.76 here popping up, as well as a 6.5 and another 8.6 and another 11. All of these better than anything else in the field. So those are all interesting things for a 40-1 shot that even at running 6 pays like 350%. The others to consider, if I just make it easier for those that want to use the tools, then let's just put this at valid bomb rolls, and we go down to the bottom for only the valid. And you see this one popping in here from Perfect Witness that goes on 1800 and boom, went down into the best out of temp and 3. So Perfect Witness is something that we have to consider or look at, just based on that kind of improvement that he's got there. And he's 4th rated at the moment, and he doesn't have a jockey at the moment, but he's the purple horse. Line bat the best, bomb roll curve the best, the consistency curve, and the 42 days the best. Means that he actually has the potential if he can do the 1600. He's done 4th over the 1800, but he won over the 1400. The 1800 was 9th, but there's Turfontaine, which is not an easy 1800 at all. So I'd throw that 14-1 Perfect Witness into the race here as well. And if I look at the notes here, Malek looks special. Came from Stone last, shut off, ran past them like they were amateurs. And that's one of the horses that is on my list to follow. Platinum Sky, watch next time. Was not his turn to win. Terry other horse was the winner in that race. After the Rain, impressive galloping lesson. Could have won by 6 more. So those are just note these notes as well. You can obviously make your own notes as well for future. You just click there and you make your note, and you won't have the ability to make it a contributor note, but you can make jockey, trainer, race, anything notes as much as you like. And next time that horse or that trainer or that jockey or that anything happens, then you'll at least be able to follow it there. In a nutshell, I do think Forever Mine is the best candidate. But in saying that, I do note that there's a 40-1 horse with only a 3-length difference on the bat figure, coming from a long rest by a trainer that also has the favorite in the feature race. So race 7. So Rachel Winiker has done very well with him. He has taken off the blinkers. He did that from a 13 draw. he can be much better from the 5 draw. I wouldn't throw Good Traveller out of the mix at all at this stage. And then I've got, Quasi for sure. I've had a note on previously as well. Muscat is also a brilliant trainer, and Grant van Niekerk is a brilliant jockey. So there's just too many that's very close here. If you look at the last 42 days only performance, how many is like within 6 lengths of each other? So this would be a race where I'll definitely be stacking up for the exotics, for the jackpot 2 basically that's coming out, because 8, 10, 13, 13, 13, 15, 15. So all of those has to have some sort of a chance to actually win this race, because those are in lengths and they are not, there's like 6 lengths between the top 8, is never a good sign for me in any case to consider. But looking at the BAT-C figure in this race, sorry, I'm taking too much time on this race now. It does have the potential to shock us when your 40-1 has a 6.9 length gap on the rest of the field, and that is by 33-1 after the reigning second place. So that's probably another horse that we have to consider in here, because it's Gareth van Zyl and Magudel are third run after a race. By then we would have known if Gareth van Zyl with Fight Song and with Stairmaster, or what is that, Master, did the double for us earlier. What was it? Fight Song and Seamaster did the double for us earlier at like 1,000-1. But anyway, moving on to the 2 poly races now. So yeah, that's why your filters can choose here over to poly. So in the next race we'll just do that and just be more concerned about the actual poly, the 11th and 12th being on the poly. So that's definitely something to consider for us. Sorry guys for taking so long, but yeah, we'll almost be out of the woods for our preview. I'm still testing tonight if we could do live stream tomorrow, but at this speed it's probably not going to be worthwhile for the guys if it's actually the slowest, but I'll be testing it in any case to see if we can. Yeah, remember this Malek here, that was also a note on, and is coming from a rest. That's why there's no data here. So also something to consider. Tough little race this. I've got a funny feeling about the race. Reason why there's some horses in red is quite frankly, my explanation of it is because they are in with it, because the merit rating has been completely played around with. Look at this Kaylin here. That's why it's so heavily in red. It used to be 106, and the trainer has been paid to turn 106 into an 85, or it could be even worse than 85 by now. Let's just see. Now, no one can explain that to me, why a horse can actually drop by 21 merit rating points. I can understand it with a horse that's like 9 years old, but not a horse that's still in training and 4 or 5 years old. Then that just doesn't make any sense for me, that a trainer must get paid for a horse to lose 10 kilos off its back or 21 merit rating points, unless if it's the actual intention to hide it from the handicapper to lose it, so that it can strike at whatever given time whenever it actually wants to. So, and that is what happened here. It was 106. It's only not even a 5-year-old. So I can't explain why a 5-year-old with 106 can drop by 21 merit rating points, or 10.5 kilos, over the course of his best racing career. And then obviously, needless to say, comes with that kind of a shock when the Connections knows it's time, 16 into 10, and almost does it, didn't pull it off, and then pulls it off the next time at 5-1. So I'll be very concerned with Kaylin. It is from a bad 14 draw, but given his potential, I want to say, he is just after Good Traveller. He is a serious consideration for me to be in the mix as well, for your kind of nice little multiples or, on the place side, top 4, top 6, even on Hollywood if you want to play that. Those are the kind of things that really stands out. You can also see how the horse was clearly just not bothered. 27, 28, 40, 26, and then bang, 13. That's 13 lengths improvement, and bang again, 7 lengths improvement. I couldn't be surprised if it does another 7 lengths improvement tomorrow to win easily at 8-1. I couldn't be surprised. But unfortunately, there is no ceiling onto the amount of merit rating that these horses can drop by, and I, for one, can't believe that that's the case. I can understand when a horse gets injured that this is the kind of thing that can happen because the horse is injured, and therefore you can drop it by 6 merit rating points maximum, or maybe 12 merit rating maximum. But to drop it like 21 is just, yeah, it's just pulling the wool over the poor punter that must now start guessing when when they're going to use that ability again. Quite frankly, that's my concern here. But yeah, be that as it may, my second rated after Kaylin here would be Valerius Dream, and they actually ran against each other. Kaylin won FM82, Valerius Dream ran third, same weight. Valerius Dream is the favorite, but was 2 lengths behind Kaylin, and Valerius Dream does have a better draw, and now does have Richard Fourie for Muscat. And if you look at those two, there's a flame that goes bang, 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 because it's a 41.38% win and a 28% place, which is absolutely great. But in saying that, it was Rachel Vinica on the horse that beat Valerius Dream by 2 lengths, and the weight didn't change. And quite frankly, to be honest, I do believe that Kaylin has the ability to be 106, and Valerius Dream hasn't proven to be 106. It's at 87 at the moment. So play that as you want, but yeah, unfortunately, the data suggests that some of these things happens funnily. When you see a red horse, as the notes would suggest there, pay special consideration to it. If you see a red horse with a joker sign next to it, which means that the trainer and the owner, which is the same thing, is in on it, be even more concerned about it. Okay, so that's the 11th race, and when I did that, I actually didn't mention to actually move over to the poly on our graph. So let's just quickly have a look at the polygraphs at the bottom here, because yeah, it means we need to look at the data on the poly. And here at the bottom, there's this horse that pops into the corner here, Midnight Crystal, third rated, currently still a reserve 2, which means that Desert Rose has to still be scratched as well as reserved 1 that can get in. But if the Midnight Crystal comes into this race as a joker for Terry, most definitely the ratings will pop it and bring it up a lot, because there's currently no trainer point, no jockey points, no connection points, and it's a reserve, so a lot will change. So do check in tomorrow by 11 o'clock, when the final everything is supposed to be announced and no more changes is allowed. But I've seen many changes since then. That happens way after the cutoff time, unfortunately, as well. It makes me a bit sad. So that's something to consider. Then, as I mentioned a few times already, don't ever underestimate Bat C, which is 3 lengths better on Stingray here, the 4th rated, another reserve 3. So if he runs, so when these 3 get scratched, you'll see the ratings change completely, because I mean, you see how many things is currently being occupied by the reserve runners, in form of the best Bomb C by one reserve runner, the best Bat C by another reserve runner. If those things pop out, a lot of these ratings will actually then change. So stick around for tomorrow 11 o'clock, when the final things are known. But for now, I'm going to say Kaylin by Valerius Dream, by if Midnight Crystal does run, by Midnight Crystal, or by if Stingray runs, by if Desert Rose runs. So if none of those runs and they're all just being scratched, then you could take a chance by just saying Kaylin and Valerius Dream is enough in this race to get us through. But let's have a look at the actual ratings tomorrow. Always concerned about these kind of horses where there's comes from a long rest and there's a gear change, and the jockey has only got 2 for the day. Lady Regent, number 1 in the nominations, so could be a little bit of a joker in the pack as well from a nice 4 draw. And lucky last, sorry that I've taken up so much time of yours. It's 44 minutes into the video already, but yeah, at least you wouldn't have to watch my face tomorrow then on the streaming if you have already seen a preview. So that's a bonus for sticking out with my face for now. Yeah, and let's move on to the last race. I just have to emphasize the fact that whenever these big feature races happens, it's a mess, because you got to realize that it's horses coming from all different centers, or call it provinces. Each province has its own handicapper. The strength of the average strength of the horses in each province is completely different, so the average merit ratings are different, which the handicappers gives them. So these handicapped horses would have potentially been differently handicapped in the other center when they are in the other center. And then they also go to a new venue, and it's new weather, and it could potentially be a course that they've never been at, that they're not happy with. So there's a lot to consider, and therefore it does make it much harder when you don't compare apples with apples, because it's horses from everywhere. You're comparing apples with pears, with bananas, with Smarties. So just keep that in mind, and don't go boss on a feature day. Rather go boss on a day where the horses has run against each other all the time, and when there's much better data to actually be able to assist us. Okay, so that being said, moving on to the last, you see Former Gear at the bottom here pops up with a gravel polyform of a 4.35 on the bat figure. And then here we got San Pedro at 1400 and Ashton Aries as well. These are all on valid bum rolls. So Former Gear, I would consider. If you just take the distance, then you have over the 1400 San Pedro here. That's really done very well, and it's a little bit of a standout, so you can't not take San Pedro if San Pedro runs, but he's currently reserved 2, so just wait for the final race cards before you actually make your bets in these kind of races where these kind of things could actually have an impact. But in saying that, USA's Hope is a lovely 4.49 lengths ahead on the bat C, and if we look at USA's Hope, is a horse that has never run on the poly, and to me that's interesting that Kanemaer brings USA Hope to the July day with for the poly that he's never run on. So that in itself says that he should probably be 100% ready to win this race. On top of that, his third run after a rest, and he's got Keegan the Miller on board, and he's a favourite, and best bomb roll curve, consistency on bomb roll, and best bat curve. So a lot going in favour of USA's Hope. But I would also say I am not surprised if Former Gear could pull it off as well, because he's another one that doesn't have the poly, and he's also coming prepared. He's got Kumalo on board. He's a joker for Muscat. He's a red joker. He's got 100% with Kumalo on the places, and 25% on the 100% with the horse on the places, and a 25% win in place for Peter Muscat. And he's got a gear change. And if I take this to the turf form, then you'll see the 8.53 here. Let's just take that out for the poly for a moment, and take the distances out as well for the moment, because this is the 1400 meters. And now we'll see that on the turf form, 10.5 was his last run, versus Former Gear had an 8.5 when he was backed in from 7 to 6, when Kamala was riding, when he ran second. So that is a lot going for him. He was improved from an 18 into an 8. USA's Hope improved from a 22 into a 10. Also great improvement, but I'm going to say 1400 Former Gear has already proven he can do the 1400 with that second when he was backed in on the yielding conditions. And on top of that, he does now get pacifiers again for some reason that didn't work with him on this day when he ran 9th, but he was not supported. Maybe they weren't even trying with it. So those are my two first choices in this race. Because USA's Hope, I don't know if he's going to do the 14 Hydra. The one time he tried, he failed on the 1300 year, and he also got no chance because he drifted from an 18 to a 25 to 1. And then the very next time he ran was a 1200 backed in and won. So I don't know if USA's Hope can do the 1000 meter either. So all of that, and none of them has done the poly. These two hasn't done the poly. So for that reason, if you want to look at poly and you want to look at the actual distance for the horses that could actually upset if these two horses can't do the poly, then we're looking here at San Pedro, Fateful Day, Diane, horses that can actually do it. JTR Combo, just for those that don't know how JTR Combo actually works, it's quite simply a preview of the day for each trainer, what he has on the day in each race for each trainer, and you can see where there's potential doubles that appeals to him. Like here is an interesting one, and that would be David Nieuwenhuizen and Calvin Habib, that combines nicely in two races in a row there. That is No Filter, and I don't know who the other one is, I can't remember. So that's the kind of things that you can see, and the results will start appearing here in this black column as the results comes through. So keep that in mind, and then also very much keep in mind this little runner here that says 2 runs since last win, 0 runs since last win, 10 since last win, 7 since last win, to know which horses, which trainers are actually in form, because that obviously in itself also helps a lot to know which horses are in form. My daughter's just stealing the biltong here. But yeah, so it actually makes a lot of sense to follow this as these results becomes known. You'll see those are all the indicators, and the finishing position here is that we'll start having them pop in here. That's actually Sandringham Summit and No Filter. You can see those two there. That's an interesting double, potential try of a double that started popping in quite nicely. So those are the kind of things that you really should. Quivers, I'll be with you just now. We're almost done. That's our assistant to do some more studying for tonight. Some of you will know Mr. Quivers. I'll phone you back just now. I'm almost done. But yeah, like these things as well, like Fight Song here with Seamaster, those kind of things when it starts popping in like that, those makes for interesting reading together. There's another one here, USA's Hope with Outlaw King. So yeah, so watch those things, and then finally the JTR detail and the daily report things. This ranking average, or call it average, the RA, the ranking average is simply an average of each and every one of these columns together. So the lower this ranking average is, the better are your chances that this horse will be in there. So if the ranking average is under 3, then it's got a decent chance of running in the top 3. If it's under 2, it's got a decent chance of running in the top 2. And if it's under, if it's like very close to 1, then it's obviously got a really good chance to win, because that's the whole idea behind it. Because in each one of these indicators, it states how good it is compared to the field, and then obviously you can combine that with the probability stats here to say rated first to finish first. And if you're playing place accumulator, then you can change that finish first to top 3. If you're playing bipod, you can change it to top 2. And if you're playing quartets, you can look at the top 4, but we've done it up to the top 6, because on these race days, you can even put a place on top 6, and sometimes you actually get 100% probability for a top 6, and you get 150% chance of that top 6 happening. So that just gives you real information, real data of decision making being much easier to do. Keep an eye on this TRC as well, top rated columns. In other words, like this one here is 7 of the 22, I think it is, in total columns. It belongs to this runner here, which is a Stuart Pettigrew's horse with Diego de Gavea, but it doesn't have a great ranking average. It's only got a 5.5 ranking average. So I just want to put this ranking average in. And so you look at this first race here. Our first race got Dulceta as the best one with a ranking average of 3.62, averaging on all these columns. And the second highest is a 5.14. Oriental Bouquet, the 20-to-1 shot, and then the 5.29 Secret Identity, 5.52 Batula. So there's a nice gap here on Robin Klaasen for Dulceta to say Dulceta at 8-to-1 should have a really decent chance of being in the mix. Doing that same thing for the other races. Race 2, 2.19 on Main Defender and 2.24 on Pure Predator, very close, and then there's a gap to 3.57, which is Jerusalem Malrain, 4.05 Outlaw King, and then there's a big gap again. So those four stands out to that sense on the averages, and then you can see how many ones here at the top here. The next one here, Mike de Kock Aragosta, 3.14, the best, and then Street Art 4.24, the second best, and Jimmy Don 4.33, Lord William 4.43, Willow's Wish 4.8, and then a big gap. So probably look at these when you do your exotics to actually see which are nice standouts. So in that, Aragosta is a little bit of a standout there. Yeah, 4.1 on Red Maple, 4.5 on Future Pull, both Tarry horses, then Salvatore Mundi, Fight Song, Cyber Time, Good Counsel. So yeah, Fight Song's actually popped up now after the recent changes into fourth already, because as I said, these ratings will still keep on changing as there's card changes, as there's Alamites, blinkers, scratchings, whatever the things, all of these things automatically gets updated and generated and changed. Miss Geriatrics looks one of the better bets on the day, 2.3 versus the next best 4.4 with no filter. Keeping in mind that David Nieuwenhuizen's reserve there is also next, and Glenn Cotson Foreshore is next, but also a reserve. In the sixth race, none of these are like very low. Earlier in the Kenilworth, we had Grant van Niekerk and Mike Stewart, with a 1.25 average for a 10-to-1 that won, and won very handsomely, very easy. Just trying to think what the horse's name was, but you can just go here on horse racing and go back to the past. We don't hide anything. If you've got the date and the venue, then you can go back 5 years for as far as you want to go. Just put that into your browser and you can go back to as far as you want. Michael Roberts here, 3.05 is in the main race here again. A nice gap to Porto Manzana, and then Dave the King, and then Safe Passage, and then the gap widens again to Do It Again, widens more to Pomp and Power, without question. So you can also see 7 top-rated counts. Now, with fields as big as these, 7 is pretty much as good as you've got to get. Mike de Kock and Sommelier Desert Miracle is one of the better ones. 8 with a 2.18, which is low, which is probably a PA banker for me. Maybe if you want to back that up with Princess Color. That's just the next one. And then Feather Boa. And then another gap to Golden Hostess. 9th race. 2.5 is really nice by Cold Fact for 8-to-1. And then 4.2 further Sheldon and Sunbushed and Tempting Fate and Gobsmacked. 10th race. And these are important from you when you actually structure your exotics to see how good a standout is a bet. Don't look at just the odds for that kind of thing. Look at the probability, real data with these ranking averages. Like for Evermind 3.14, Captain Fontaine 4.5, there's a nice gap there, and then Meridius 5.3. And I'm not saying these values will actually hold any water tomorrow, because it's like apples and pears and bananas and Smarties and everything else compared together. Kayleen 3.5, Valeria's Dream 4.3, Midnight Crystal. But you should actually be doing this on normal days, on your normal Turffontein, your normal Kenilworth, your normal Fairview Poly, or normal Fairview when you're comparing apples with apples, because we're not comparing apple with apples. We're comparing different handicappers from different provinces. And the horses come together once in a year and run against each other. So very difficult, very hard to assess like this. In the last, nice gap as well. Former Gear 2.8 versus USA's Hope 2.5. 4.1 at 2.5 odds. And then a gap to 5.6 for Fateful Day and another gap to San Pedro. But just in saying that, But I just want to show you how that actually works, these ranking averages. If you like, just go to today, just to give you an idea how that actually plays a role. And we'll just use one of the greenies as an example, Pedro. In your JTR detail today for Fairview Poly, you could see that San Pedro was actually a standout, and I'll show you why. The averages was actually so good, and the everything was looking so great after Sharon Kotzen was in any case in good form and Louis Makotwa was in any case in good form. Then these things really started making good sense. So I just want to show you how these actually looked today. You'll see your graphs is still, if you've got the right race here, when you go to JTR combos and details, and then you'll also see the correct graph while you're actually looking at the data. So like if you want to look at race 7 JTR detail, make sure that this is also on race 7, then you can look at the graph at the same time as well. But hopefully it doesn't take too long to get through. So I just want to wait for this to load so I can show you the example we have for Pedra today. Almost there. You can see that it's happening at least. And then I'll leave you alone. Tomorrow, yeah, hoping everyone does really well tomorrow. Let's just use race 7 and then the rank it. Remember, it's much faster on the actual website. This is just like this actually the OBS buffer that takes so long. But look here, this is an example. 13 of the columns belonged to Pedra with an average of 1.6. Now that's beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. That's the kind of thing that you want to look at. And then when you looked at the very next race, that's Batman for Zitzman Station with Mr. Peterson was a really big standout on the Batman over the 1400, so 200 meters less. But yeah, he was very much the standout on the bats, and therefore has to be considered. Always look at your bat figures, at your bat C, bat CD, and also bomb roll figures, bomb C, bomb CD. And obviously the most recent, the 42 days, is more important than the older ones, and that's why they weighted accordingly for the rankings and the ratings as well. Last thing I haven't mentioned, but you can do that yourself, on the far left, the actual brains, the machine learning and the artificial intelligence. You can just click on that far left column, and that'll actually then sort it by machine learning and artificial intelligence, which is what we use every month to flush and make the actual ratings better and better, because there's 84 rules that each horse has the same chance of. But like here's El Ramachi, 1.5 to next best was a 5.4. So, and it's also the purple horse, which is the line horse, so the one with the best chance to be in the mix. And you can see that in the form of the actual pictures at the bottom. When you look at the bat figures, how that is so much better is obviously that El Ramachi would go that much lower than anything else. So you'll see that pop here. There's El Ramachi hitting the finishing line. Okay guys, it's been a lot to take in, and I hope that helps. But yeah, and good luck for tomorrow, and hope to see you again soon on the YouTube channel. I hope you subscribe for some more of the videos. It's a long process, and there's a lot to do. Have a great night.